Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Does a verified ceasefire and hostage deal, achieved after 2 brutal years, truly mark a new beginning for the Middle East? Or are we just witnessing a very necessary, but maybe very temporary pause? That really is the pivotal question today. We're unpacking the tentative agreement between Israel and Hamas, the one brokered back in October 2025 in Sharm el-Sheikh. You had the U.S., Egypt, Qatar, Turkey involved, and the deal itself, well, it involved releasing roughly 20 living hostages, a parallel release of Palestinian prisoners, a surge in aid, and an IDF pullback to an agreed line.
It's the interpretation that's really striking here. The optimism. Our sources are framing this as, well, maybe the best chance for lasting peace since Oslo.
Since the Oslo Accords, back in the 90s.
Exactly. And the idea is a radical shift.
Yeah.
Oslo got bogged down in, abstract talks, maps, constitutions. This time, the focus seems to be on practical coexistence, actually building things, reconstruction, economic normalcy in Gaza first.
Right. So moving from high theory to, well, stuff on the ground. And when you think about the context, over 60,000 Palestinians dead, estimates of 78% of Gaza's buildings damaged, maybe destroyed. After 2 years of just utter carnage, the fact that they even got a sustained ceasefire.
That alone is historic. It creates breathing room, space, maybe, for something different.
And the analysis really highlights how it happened. It points to the U.S. president's approach, described as, transactional bullying style, using threats, but also big inducements. And that seemed to get movement where, let's be honest, early on diplomacy just stalled out.
It was high-pressure stuff, definitely. Deadline diplomacy forcing the issue.
Which feeds into that core philosophy you mentioned. Stability, economic normality before you get bogged down in constitutional design.
That's the idea. And the vision for success isn't some grand White House ceremony. It's more like a decade of cement mixers spinning in Gaza. That's how the analysis puts it.
A decade of cement mixers, that paints a picture.
And to make that happen, there's apparently a Phase 2 plan circulating among the mediators. Quite ambitious.
Okay, what's in that?
It talks about setting up a non-Hamas technocratic administration, an international stabilization force, and crucially, a reconstruction board, potentially chaired by the U.S. president.
A U.S.-chaired reconstruction board. Wow. Okay. Now, beyond the plan itself, the sources seem to suggest the timing is good, that the regional alignment now is maybe better than in '93.
That's a key part of the optimistic case. They point to, well, 2 main things. 1, a somewhat weakened Iran, maybe less able to play spoiler, and 2, perhaps more importantly, the Gulf states. They seem genuinely willing this time to finance a massive reconstruction effort.
They're ready to write the checks.
And help on right security, too. That combination, the U.S., Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the Gulf powers, all pushing for stability, even for their own reasons. That kind of alignment is rare. Very rare.
Okay, that does sound like a comprehensive blueprint on paper. Powerful backing, a phased approach, but a blueprint is just paper. If all this optimism hinges on Phase 2 actually working...
Let's push back a bit. Where are the immediate holes, the missing scaffolding that makes this look fragile right now?
And that's exactly where the critical analysis has to come in. The gaps appear pretty quickly when you dig into the details, especially on security. It lacks operational reality, you could say.
How so?
Well, who exactly commands this international force they're proposing? Who polices Gaza's borders? Really polices them to stop weapons coming back in. And how do you collect the weapons already there? That's a huge task. Without a formal UN mandate, which seems unlikely, or maybe a really strong Arab League treaty, which, well, doesn't exist yet, that whole security umbrella feels more like a concept than a concrete plan.
A paper shield. Okay, so security vacuum is problem number 1. But even if you solve that, the plan mentions this externally imposed technocratic cabinet for Gaza. What about legitimacy? How will Gazans see that? That's potentially a massive legitimacy vacuum. Look, an external cabinet might be great at fixing the power grid or managing aid. Very efficient, maybe. But Gazans could easily see it as just.
Yeah.
Well, another form of external control, an occupation by proxy.
Right, swapping one system for another imposed one.
Exactly. And if you ignore that political reality, that need for internal buy-in, well, Hamas's ideology, even if not the organization itself, could just go underground and resurface later. You can't just fix this with money and jobs. Politics, legitimacy. It matters deeply.
And the sources we looked at had some, frankly, chilling numbers on the psychology involved here, the deep mistrust on both sides.
They really do. And that public psychology might be the biggest blockade of all. It's deeply entrenched. Just look at the polling data mentioned. Support for a two-state solution among Israelis, down to around 25%.
25%. Wow. What was it before?
It was up at 61% back in 2012. So a huge drop.
And on the Palestinian side?
Still, significant support for armed resistance, somewhere between 41% and 50%. And disturbingly, a May poll showed about half still supported the October 7th attacks.
Half the population.
Half the population you're trying to bring into a peaceful coexistence.
Yeah.
That level of antagonism, that deep-seated enmity, it points towards needing decades of work. Transitional justice, demilitarization, way beyond just a 5-year building plan.
So the cement mixer's timeline might be optimistic.
Or at least it only solves one part of the problem.
Okay, let's pivot back to the region. You mentioned a weakened Iran as part of the positive outlook. Does that hold up to scrutiny? Is Iran really sidelined here?
I think humbled might be too strong a word. It feels like a half-truth, maybe. Yes, some Iranian proxies might be degraded in certain areas, but Hezbollah, in Lebanon, their core capabilities seem pretty much intact. And you still have militias in Iraq, in Yemen.
Yeah.
They can act as spoilers, very unpredictable ones.
So assuming Iran will just cooperate because the Gulf states are talking peace.
That feels like the kind of strategic wishful thinking that's followed other diplomatic efforts, doesn't it?
It does. Today's regional calm might just be an interlude, a strategic pause, not a permanent shift.
Could be. The threat map hasn't necessarily changed fundamentally.
And then there's the personality factor, the U.S. president. The sources acknowledged the very style, the urgency, the brinkmanship that forced this deal.
Yeah.
Well, it seems completely wrong for the next phase. The long, slow, patient work needed to actually run that reconstruction board.
That's a critical point. It's a total mismatch, potentially. The skills needed to kickstart a process through sheer force of will are often the opposite of what you need for patient, consistent, long-term institution building.
Right. One needs deadlines and pressure. The other needs bureaucracy.
Exactly. That reconstruction board needs careful management, transparency, endless meetings, patience. Consistency is a temperament that forced the deal suited to chairing that successfully for 5-10 years. It's a serious systemic risk for the whole Phase 2 idea.
Okay, so moving past the grand strategy, let's get really specific. If success actually looks like a decade of cement mixer spinning, what are the immediate, practical, administrative tripwires? The things that could derail this whole thing in the next, say, 24 months?
Right, we need to look at the really granular stuff, the metrics that matter on the ground. First, definitely security, filling that vacuum we talked about.
What does that actually mean in practice?
It means deploying maybe 10,000, maybe 15,000 vetted Arab peacekeepers.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground. And absolutely critical. They need a clear joint command structure, probably U.S.-Egypt, and very precise rules of engagement, ROE.
Rules of engagement, meaning when they can shoot.
Exactly. When can they use force?
Yeah.
Against whom? Under what circumstances? Without that legal framework and without massive, predictable funding, likely from the Gulf, that force simply won't materialize or function effectively.
Okay, security force deployment and rules. What's next?
The completely unglamorous but totally essential issue of governance, paying people.
Rebuilding
Rebuilding the civil service. Yes, you need maybe 40,000 local Palestinian employees to actually run things inside Gaza. Utilities, schools, aid distribution. The basics. Seems administrative, right. But there's a huge political catch.
Which is?
Israel has to agree to unfreeze Palestinian customs revenues every month so these people can actually get paid.
The money Israel collects on behalf of the PA.
Precisely. If that civil service doesn't get paid regularly and predictably, the whole local governance structure collapses instantly. Doesn't matter how much aid is flowing in.
No paychecks, no government. Got it. And the overall funding needed, the numbers are huge, $25 to $30 billion over 5 years.
Staggering numbers. And even if the Gulf states are genuinely willing to pay up, there are still hurdles.
Like what? Donor fatigue.
That's part of it. But maybe bigger is the fear of corruption based on past experiences. So donors, even willing ones, are going to attach really complex oversight mechanisms, transparency requirements, audits.
Which means?
It inevitably slows down disbursement. Money gets stuck in the pipeline. You risk starving the recovery of funds right when it needs momentum, especially in the first year or two, and lost momentum in reconstruction.
Yeah.
That's often impossible to get back.
So slow money could kill the momentum.
It's a real risk.
And then there's the political timeline itself. It sounds like a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a very long road.
Right.
The plan currently envisions municipal elections in Gaza maybe by 2027, then potentially PA-wide elections by 2020.
Wow, 2029.
And all of that depends entirely on achieving sustained stability in Gaza first. Plus, and this is key, serious political and security reforms happening over in the West Bank within the existing Palestinian Authority.
Which brings us to maybe the biggest political landmine outside Gaza itself, Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
Yes. The sources are very clear on this.
The U.S. president has to lean on Israel here.
Has to. It's the ultimate political stress test for whichever Israeli government is in power and trying to uphold this deal. The U.S. needs to push Israel to halt all new settlement outposts, especially those east of the security barrier.
And that means the Israeli leader Netanyahu or his successor has to confront their own hard-right coalition partners.
Directly confront them. It's a move that could easily bring down a government.
Without that.
Without that settlement restraint, the fundamental critique just won't go away.
Yeah.
How can Israel be negotiating peace while simultaneously taking more land? It undermines a whole project's legitimacy across the region.
So wrapping this all up, listening to all this, the optimism and the serious challenges, what's the takeaway for you? How should we frame this moment? Is it a new beginning or not?
I think we have to be really cautious and balanced. It's not a guaranteed peace, not even close. It's better to see this ceasefire as a reset of possibilities. That's the phrase that feels right. It gives diplomacy oxygen, maybe a fighting chance, but absolutely no guarantee of survival.
So what does peace depend on then, if not the big pronouncements?
It depends less on the high-level handshakes and the slogans about everlasting peace, much less, and far more on those slow, grinding administrative metrics over the next, say, 24 months.
The boring stuff.
The boring stuff. Sustained aid flow actually reaching people, functioning local governance schools open, salaries paid, and crucially, a measurable decline in cross-border violence, attacks, rockets, incursions. If those practical, on-the-ground details move consistently in the right direction, then maybe, just maybe, 2025 marks a real start. But if they falter, if the security unravels or the money gets stuck or the politics explodes, then it's just another mirage in the desert, another false dawn.
That really puts it starkly. Success hinges on dull, grinding administration. So here's the final thought for you listening. If the world's attention is fixed on the high-level political theater, the summits, the announcements, the personalities, but the real make-or-break work is happening in customs, clearance offices, payroll departments, and with those cement mixers. How can anyone ensure that the crucial bureaucratic consistency, the transparency, the sheer grind gets prioritized over grabbing short-term political wins or headlines? That relentless, unglamorous oversight, maybe that's the hardest challenge of all. Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.